What's up, y'all?
Hey, Andrew.
Hey, how's it going, Justin? What's new, my friend?
Not too much. It's a sunny day for the first time in I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks here.
Uh, where are you based?
Connecticut.
Oh, nice, Connecticut. Never been. My wife's from New Hampshire, though, which is, I think, kind of close. But I'm a West Coast boy, so when I think about the East Coast, my geography's all screwed up.
So I think we are officially live based on what Adriana said. I'm just gonna double check, and then we'll do the intros. Let's see.
Nice. Now, what's up, y'all? Logan, Oklahoma. You got to watch Tulsa King. It's such a great show. If you haven't seen it already. Let's see. We have Q&A. This Air Meet platform is pretty cool too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm digging it.
Hey,
I'm digging
Logan.
it.
Looks like we're live, though it still has the initial cover image on. So, but it seems like everyone in AirMeet can see what's going on. So, let's see.
LinkedIn is a minute or so behind.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, it'll still catch up. Um, so my name is Justin Levy. Thank you for joining us for another Marketing Monday. I am the director of social and influencer marketing at Demandbase. And today I am very excited to be joined by Andrew Mewborn. Did I get that right?
Yeah, Mewborn. Some people say Mewborn. It's all the same. I always say like
Hey,
newborn baby,
yeah, exactly.
but with an
Hey,
M as in Mary.
my entire
So,
life I've gotten it's Levy, but I've gotten Levy, Levi, and somehow people make the jump from Justin to Jason. So,
uh,
and it's even happened like someone will confirm my name
yeah,
like 5 seconds
yeah.
before I walk on a stage to speak to an audience, and then they'll screw it up when they intro me. So, um,
Yeah. I feel you on that one. Justin. Absolutely.
but why don't you introduce yourself to the audience, and then we'll jump into how to master your personal brand in 30 days.
Yeah, absolutely. So quick intro, Andrew Mewborn. Let's see. With these, I always am testing new ones, right? In terms of intros, where do I start is always the thing. So, Andrew Mewborn grew up in California. I started early at Outreach.io, so I was there about 7 years, all the way from it being about 500K in revenue to about 250K or 250 million in revenue, I should say, not 250K. That would be going backwards, right? So and while at Outreach, did quite a number of things, everything from product side to engineering to sales engineering to as well as just sales. So did that. That was a majority of my career. While I was at Outreach, I spun out a bunch of side hustles. One just got acquired by the name of Taplio. So that actually started as a side hustle 3 months after leaving Outreach. We actually sold it, which was great. And then I've actually got a new product that I'm launching soon called Distribute, which is going to be helping companies do content-led growth. So that is the quick skinny of all the million things I do. But yeah, happy to help y'all talk about, personal brand is such an interesting buzzword. I use it because it's commonly known, but recently what I've been changing that to is actually how do you help people build an audience of potential buyers on LinkedIn? So that's what and one of the things I help people do is just that with Brand 30, another one of my courses / cohorts / communities there. So enough about me though. Justin, let's get into it, how I can help others, how we can help you, and all that. So that's what I'm here for today.
Absolutely. And for those that don't know, and I was shocked when I saw the stat, but Andrew has helped over 4,000 people with his Brand 30 product or cohort or, however you want to term it. But I agree. The phrase personal brand has been around for a decade, over a decade, 15 years or so, and it's taken its different forms. But we've certainly seen the kind of resurgence of it in uh, as LinkedIn has become more popular and as people have kind of churned it from being a professional network where it's essentially your digital resume to now being somewheres where people are developing influence in posting content on a normal, regular basis, and a lot of the stuff that you talk about. So I have things, and if the audience has questions, please pop them into the chat, whether that's on LinkedIn or if that's within here in AirMeet. We'll make sure Andrew can answer them. But I at least have some questions from the more theoretical or higher level to the more tactical nitty gritty. And if it starts to give away the secret sauce of Brand 30, you just yell at me and say that people have to pay for it. But
Uh,
um, first off, some of the things that were in the description for this event. What are the some of at least the do's and don'ts when it comes to building your brand? And for the purposes of this conversation, probably specifically to LinkedIn.
Yeah. So there's a lot tied up in that, right? And the first thing I'll say is I give everything away, that pretty much 99% of everything I know away for free. And then the payment of the course and all that is implementation. So putting it into practice, right? So that's typically my strategy on that. And there you go. There's a personal branding strategy there, right? Which is like give a majority of everything you want away for free. Why is that? A lot of people will say, well, hey, like this should be paid or this should not be paid. Should I make this paid? Like, trust me, what's going to get you paid clients is giving away the information that you think should be paid. Alex Hormozy, who's a big like influencer just on the internet, says almost the same thing, right? Which is like, hey, I basically give everything away for free and charge for implementation. So, I have the same strategy, always have, right? And I think going into it, that's when you give away that type of information, that gets people interested in you. And that's typically the juicy stuff that people want to hear, right? So if you're just starting out, monetize the 1% that you have left. That's the best of the best, right? But I would say a lot of people think about monetizing too soon when building the personal brand, right? Like, how do I make money off this? The simplest way to start is post once per day, right? Don't go crazy. Think you have to post 4 times per day. So what we teach in Brand 30, and basically the framework that we go through is we don't even start the course, the 30-day course, with posting the first week. Like, we don't even post for the first week. The whole first week is mindset, right? Because what actually we have to get past is these limiting beliefs that most people have. And those are, hey, I don't know enough. Hey, I don't have any credibility. Hey, I don't have any good ideas. Hey, I can't do this or that. Or an excuse of why I can't do it. Right. So actually 80% of it is that first week and getting them over that mindset hump, believe it or not. And then once they get over that and they realize that like every post is just an experiment and they start to give themselves permission to create junk, that is when they typically cross the bridge and say, you know what, okay, I can do this. If person over here could do it, then I can do it too. So going into that, how do you get started? I would say the biggest thing is just going into it, understanding that you're gonna create a bunch of crappy stuff, and that's okay, right? And I call it like the personal branding journey is starting in Netflix mode. And what does Netflix mode mean? That typically means like you're pumping out a bunch of content and you're hoping for 1 or 2 winners every couple of weeks, right? And those 1 or 2 winners, you then say, okay, these are 1 or 2 winners. And then you learn that, let me analyze these 1 to 2 winners. Let me see how I can take those and then double down on those, say those in different ways. Okay. So we have a whole system of this in Brand 30, obviously, but this is a high level kind of take on it. Right. And so that is the idea. Now, once you start to produce tons and tons of content after a year, maybe a year and a half, maybe 6 months, depending how much content you pump out, you then have a whole library of stuff that works or doesn't work. Right. And so then you kind of shift towards Netflix building to HBO building. And what is HBO building? Right. HBO building is maybe you post less, you post 1 time per day, but it's valuable content because guess what? You've posted it before and it's done super well. Okay. So that is kind of the shift there. And this gets into the quality versus quantity versus quality. Look, when you're starting something new, you want to do as many reps of it as you can. right? Without burning out, obviously. And so when people start, I say, hey, it's all about putting in the reps. So yes, you could create a bunch of content. Don't burn yourself out. If you want to post 3 times a day, do it, but do it to understand that you're trying to find your winners, right? And so now you'll see I recently personally just moved from Netflix to HBO mode, right? Like literally 2 months ago, I did it, and I've been in this game for a couple years now. And what I did, I was posting 4 times a day. I was doing all this stuff, but now you'll see me. I post once in the morning a carousel that's like super high value. And what I do is I call it the screenshot or the bookmark test, where I'm only going to post something in the mornings that is something that I can see a friend screenshotting or a friend grabbing the link to and sending it to someone else because it's that valuable, right? So, and over the past 2 months, I've gone from 33,000 followers to now 85,000 in less than 2 months. Right. So, like, you think about that, that's the power of that mode, right? And so I know when I post something that it's going to do well because I've tested all that stuff before,
Yeah.
right? So, but you can't go into it like that because you don't probably have a library of content, right? And so that's kind of the switch we've made. That this is more strategy versus tactics, right? But again, I did that 2 months ago. So for people that are getting started and they're worried about how much should I post, 1 per day, 2 per day, 3 per day, 4 per day, whatever, it's put as much as you can keep up with for a 6 month period. And if that's 1 per day, great. Because most people will say, I'm going to go hard and I'm going to do 5 times a day. And then, right, they last like 3 days and then they like stop for a year and they're like, shoot, I screwed that up. Right. Um, and so that's what will happen. But if you start with one a day, and then we have a question from is that Adriana asking this question? How much
I think
effort do
it's
you
the one
put in your
that submitted it from Rob.
Okay, got it. How much let's see the question here. How much effort do you put in your appearance on camera? I feel that a professional's virtual setup is becoming the new suite. Um Honestly, not that much. I have this great camera, y'all, called the Opal OPAL C1. It was like $250 and it's like look at the quality. It's amazing, right? It makes me look way prettier than I actually am. So yeah, I would that's literally all I have, and then this mic was $200 and I set up a mic. I got this mic and then a mic stand that was $10 on Amazon. That's it. I could probably do better and do some lighting in the background. Like I have like my mom's hats back in my wife's hats back here, like beach hats. Like, come on. So like, yeah, not much, but people will definitely tell you should do that. I have some other friends that are big in podcasting and stuff. That once I start to do more video, I'll probably care about it more. But is it going to make or break you online? I don't think so quite yet. Like I would just start writing and you'll worry about that later.
Yeah, I mean, just to Rob's question,
Yeah.
I mean, I forget the exact model, but it's a typical webcam, but it's a Logitech I don't know, 920 or something. It's a 1080p. It has a built-in ring light, and I have that's kind of blurred out right now. A Yeti Blue mic that I got for probably 5 years ago for a couple $100. And that's all I do. The one thing that's blurred out, but you can still tell, is we moved into our house a year and a half ago, and I don't have any artwork or anything on the wall behind me. So
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
failure on my part. But to what you're talking about with the library piece, um,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that has worked for me, and I've really made this shift to, as of late, is taking content that I've already created, whether it's on LinkedIn or it's another platform or something I've written in an email or whatever, and put that into another format. So, for example, I just, I've done carousels every Saturday or Sunday now for the past
Yeah.
several weeks. It is literally content that I've just copied from somewhere else, and I've just made it pretty in Canva, and it's taken me maybe 30 minutes to do, because all I'm doing is cut and pasting, finding a couple images to throw in there, and it's done. And I post it. So, I think besides having the library of content, it's finding new ways to repurpose it. Because you could take that content, if you are someone that likes video, and shoot a 30-second video of that, and it's literally the text that you posted 6 months ago, if you have access to that, if you've captured
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
um, one of the things in kind of on that, this is more the kind of pure tactical question that I have, in that you see all the time on LinkedIn, and I think it's everyone trying to, frankly, game the algorithm a little bit whenever they can. But what are the types of content that you see work the best right now? Is it, you have short text, long form text, you have carousels, images, videos, you have all these different content types, and everyone will tell you something different. And of
Yeah.
course, it's for
Yeah.
your audience what performs. But what have you seen perform the best? I know you said you've been doing more carousels, images,
Yeah.
and what have you. But generally speaking, if you look out across, say, the 4,000 students that you've had, or friends with large audiences, are you seeing any similarities?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is where I always say, like, don't study the algorithm, study people, because like the algorithm, it's another way of saying control what you can control. You can't control the algorithm, and that's a big kind of that's a reframe that we have to do in brand 30 for a lot of people that join, which is like, hey, they come in thinking, all right, what do I have to do based on the algorithm, right? And it's like, look, we're gonna don't worry about that. Learn the foundations of how to capture attention. The skill you're actually learning is actually two skills. It's copywriting, and it's learning how to capture attention by using good hooks, by doing certain formatting, by doing certain call to actions, right? And so I always say, like, you don't want to study and like obsess over the algorithm, because that can change tomorrow. And then guess what? You have no control over it. Something that you do have control over is your own content, right? And so this is a little bit of tough love. And I always give this to brand 30 people, but they always love me for it, which is like, you'll see people saying, what's going on with the algorithm? LinkedIn's not pushing my stuff as far. And it's like, it's because your content sucks. Like, quite frankly, it's because that's why. It's not the algorithm. Like, as I mentioned here before, and I'm going to sound, I just like to give like real feedback, and not, I don't like to beat around the bush, right? Which is like, if the LinkedIn algorithm was so screwed, why have people like myself grown so fast in the past 2 months? Like that. So that's not what it is. It's a focus on good content. And if you do that, then that is what you can control, right? You can focus on trying to make better content. Um, Now, with that being said, there are windows of opportunity with the current algorithm, right? Don't obsess over it, but like, study the bigger accounts. Like me, if you see me doing a carousel every morning, you should probably do a carousel every morning, because I'm studying what needs to be done, right? Not in terms of the algorithm, but in terms of what is optimizing for what I'm doing, which is getting people to join brand 30. Right. And so, with that being said, the current window of opportunity on LinkedIn is carousels. Guess what? In 6 months, it might be video. They might go full in on video. Right. And like, okay, then maybe I'll make the switch to video. Right. But all the foundational stuff is going to be the same in terms of capturing attention. This is why it's important to learn the copywriting techniques, to learn how to capture attention, those two skills, because those will be what you always need. Right. And so if you look at all, like on TikTok, I have 20K, rest in peace to TikTok. Who knows how long it's going to last, but I hope it keeps lasting. But like on 20K, I've literally, all my videos are just me reading off my text posts. And I use the same hooks as in the text post as I would do is the initial 3 seconds of the video. Right. So it all intertwines. So all these videos and stuff you see people making, they're using the same hooks that they would do in text posts. But now, if you've done a bunch of text posts and you know which ones work well, as you mentioned, you can repurpose that stuff. So all of my carousels are just repurposed Twitter threads. I probably only create one new carousel a week. It looks like I pump out a lot. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't. I just create one new one a week. It's because I have a whole 2 years worth of stuff that I've tested. Right. And so that's part of the game. Right. And that takes patience. And so, on my landing page for brand 30, instead of, and I say, hey, I say why you shouldn't join this. And you shouldn't join it if you think this is going to be a magic bullet, because there's not one. right? It's like 2 years of effort and all that. And I tell people, like, don't truly be a creator unless you want to spend more than a year or two like trying to figure this out. And it sounds cool getting paid to do posts and all that stuff, but like it's taken years to get to that point of testing and iterating stuff to grow, right? And it's very difficult. I will say it's one of the hardest things ever, like coming up with content all the time. But once you have so much, now you have a Rolodex of winners, right? So we can get a more repurposing strategy and stuff, Justin, but want to make sure we're doing what's useful for the audience here too.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, if you
Yeah.
have questions for Andrew, make sure that you drop them in. Oh, I clicked on the nifty little Q&A feature in AirMeet. Don't worry, anyone that's on here, it's mine and Andrew's first time using AirMeet, so be patient. Logan asked if there were any browser extensions that you recommended.
For what use case, Logan? For LinkedIn, like content, or yeah. And Logan, go ahead and comment with what kind of context there. But we'll look at the other question for now, which is, if you're starting fresh building a brand, how do you capture attention when your area of sales is broad and not a niche? Oh, Jessica, great question. The thing to do here is the buzzword is niche down. What does that actually mean? That means get more specific, right? Get more specific with an area of sales that you think is underrated or not talked about enough, right? So for me, if you look at me, I'm talking to salespeople, but I'm talking about personal branding for salespeople, because sales is just capturing attention, right? Like those are going to be the future top performers, other than the ones that can capture attention online to get pipeline and deals, right? And that's why I'm so adamant about salespeople getting online and starting to learn how to create content and stuff, because that's going to be the future, right? I promise you. Or if it's not a big part of the future, the people that are going to make the most money doing sales are going to be the ones that have followings. I promise you that, right? Because they're the ones that can capture attention. So what do you do to niche down? You get more specific. How do you get more specific? You can get more specific like by locality. So you can say how to do sales better in the United States, right? Just to give you an example. Or in B2B SaaS, right? You can do a certain market, a certain category. You can do a certain part of sales, like the psychology of sales, right? Like a component of sales. You can do different sales stages. So you can say, hey, let's talk about the post sales process and how you get customers to expand, right? So it's finding that area of expertise that you have and matching that. So if we have a Venn diagram, on the right side is your expertise, right? Your unique expertise, I would say. And then on the left side is what the market wants. And you're trying to get fill in the middle there, right? The hard part about that is finding your unique expertise that people aren't talking about yet, right? So for me, I talked about personal branding for salespeople, right? So more people are starting to get into that now. Um, of course, right? So that's one area. I also talk a lot about like I use visuals to explain a lot of my concepts, right? Because I like to draw and create, visuals and stuff like that. So it's unique to me. So in that case, that's my uniqueness, right? Um, so hopefully that helps answer your question. And the last thing I'll say about that, Jessica, is it doesn't happen overnight. It happens through constant iteration, right? You have to keep trying and experimenting things. And then one day you'll start to say, hey, every day you'll get closer to what that thing is, right? And that'll never change. Like every day when I post something, I'm still trying to get closer to like what's the perfect thing, right? So you just got to keep testing and iterating.
And
Um,
I would just follow up too and say, and I'm sure this is something that you talk about, like you said, in that kind of first week, is a lot of people don't think that they have an expertise. They think they don't have anything to say.
yeah,
When if you just look at, and I've done this, I go back and I look at a project that I've done or something at work, and I'm like, I'm not seeing that talked about that often. Or I
yeah,
don't see my audience talking about that. It could be all over other people's, accounts or what they're doing or case studies, but no one's done this within my audience. And
yeah.
I package it up in a way that I think will be, engaging. And for me, that's B2B influencer marketing. I've done a lot of things in my past with social media, with small business and in up to Fortune 100s. But, right now it's B2B influencer marketing and it's private communities and how brands can take advantage of them. So
Yeah.
that's where I've niched down, and it's, opened other doors for me, besides
Yeah.
just on LinkedIn. So to Logan followed up and said content creation. So browser extensions for content creation.
Yeah, there's two I'll recommend, Logan. There's one which is Twemex on Twilio, right? TWE I'll put it in the chat here. And then the other one is Taplio's extension. Again, shameless plug. We basically took Twemex's extension and made it for LinkedIn. What it does is it shows you all the top posts from whoever's profile you're on. Is basically what it is. So if you want to go look at creators in your niche that are doing well and you want to see what has been their top post, you can click on the extension and it'll actually filter by top posts. So it's amazing. So you can easily get ideas, right? And again, no plagiarizing. We don't condone that. We don't want that to happen. But what you do is you take that and you steal like an artist, right? If any of you ever read that, you take the ideas, right, and make them your own. Whether it's the hooks, whether it's the formatting. This is what we teach in Brand 30, right? It's all these little tips and tricks to like understand, hey, how do we steal like an artist, right? How do we look at topics at work? How do we reformat them? How do we redo them, make them our own? Because that's what all the biggest accounts are doing too. That's why you've probably seen a million big accounts say top 10 websites that should be illegal to know, right? Like, right, I don't do that type of post, but you'll see that like they do it because they know it works, right? So you'll kind of see that there. So hopefully that's helpful. So Twimix and then Taplio, the Taplio extension, and then for anyone that wants you get a 7 free day trial of Taplio, I believe, and if you join Brand 30, you get like a whole 5 weeks for $1 or something. So there you go. That in itself is $90 off your purchase price, right? So yeah, that's available too. So hopefully
So
that's helpful. Yeah.
Pedro asks, are there any legal slash admin must do's that someone should consider while building their personal brand, and things that you wish you knew when you started kind of early on in this process?
No legal things, right? I wouldn't like don't worry about that, y'all. I've never like it's fine. There definitely are things that I had wished I knew early on. They're not really legal related, but it's like, we go through some Brand 30 where it's like trolls, people who would just troll you. It's fine people disagree. But it's people that troll you and just kind of butt heads, right? And so, yeah, we want to avoid the butt heads. But yeah, that's definitely something. What I wish I knew early on is how to deal with that, because when it first happens, you're like, holy shit, like this person's trying to cancel me, and then like you see people pile on and like, anyways. So early on is like you kind of have to develop a thick skin, and the bigger you start to grow, the more haters you actually get. So hopefully you're kind of progressing internally of like your no excuse my language here, but no fucks given kind of goes, increases with your growth rate, right? Because you'll get more people that are like, hey, basically coming at you. So just a heads up there. Um, that's the dark side of some of this stuff.
So Brendan asks, coming from a corporate hiring standpoint, what type of
Yeah.
personal media branding stands out versus, it doesn't come off generic and thoughtless?
So yeah, that's a great from a corporate hiring standpoint. When you start off, you kind of think in two buckets. You think, do I want to do this to help me make sales at my current company? Or do I want to do this to set myself up for success and maybe sell my own products in the future, start my own business, right? And so you kind of have to teeter totter there. I will say, from a corporate standpoint, old school companies, we've had like a couple of people in Brand 30, their company has threatened to fire them, believe it or not, for posting stuff, which is absurd to me, and it's BS, complete BS. I think, one decided to leave the company because of that, and I was like, good for you. And they found a better job, right? But like, so, I will say that you have to go into it understanding what you want to do. Like, if you're doing it to make more sales, you're a salesperson, then great. What you want to talk about is the problems you help solve with your product, right? Every type of business writing, is problem, solution. So you start with the problem and then you give a solution, right? Now, the art comes into how do you write that and how do you do that. But from that standpoint, you always talk about the problem and you start there. Hey, do you want to build your personal brand on LinkedIn? Most people suck at this because 1, 2, 3. If you don't want to suck at this, here's 1, 2, 3, right? So you kind of start with the problem, then you give the solution. And excuse my baby, I don't know if you could hear my son there, but he's in the background crying. Little Apollo, everyone, 7 months old. So that is, hopefully that helps. There's not really a one answer to this, but if you don't want to be generic or thoughtless, Brendan, one thing that I did for about a month is I studied funny copywriters that I thought were amazing, like SNL skits. I would actually write them by hand. I'd look at the transcription of the script and I'd actually write it by hand, to actually work on my writing and my thoughtfulness and how to add personality to writing. So you can call that like basic copying writers that you admire, copying their text, right? Just by hand, so you can see what it feels like. Okay. So that's one thing that I would do. The gurus will tell you to be authentic, right? What's that really mean? That means like adding your voice to it, right? Adding words you would use, writing like you talk, right? That is some ways to do that. And if you want to see someone that does that well, Brendan, check out Sarah Brazier at Gong. She writes her stuff in the form of like plays, and the idea is nothing new. She writes about cold calling and cold emailing. Like everyone and their mom on LinkedIn talks about that, right? But what she does is she does it in her own voice. And that's a way to differentiate. You're never going to have new ideas, y'all. So forget about it, right? When people are like, you stole my idea, it's a joke, right? Because that idea, someone else, they got that idea from someone else too. So like original ideas are few and far between on LinkedIn, right? A lot of stuff is the same ideas repackaged. So just remember that when you're, this goes back to the stealing like an artist. There's nothing really original, and the gurus will fight me on this, but I promise you, if you look deep into their stuff, they got it from somewhere else too, right? um, so hopefully that helps. I know that was long-winded. Do we want to go to the next question?
Yeah. So Nicholas asks, I want to put out more content on LinkedIn, but I talk
Yeah.
about mobile advertising and tech sales. Should I choose one of them, or posting about both is fine in terms of his audience?
So and tech sales, right? Mobile advertising and tech sales. So I always am a proponent of focusing, Nicholas, right? Focus, focus, focus. Pick that one topic first, because it's hard enough to focus on one topic, let alone two, right? And so focus on one, and the one that's going to give you the most leverage. Like if you focus on this one topic, it's actually going to help me do all these other things that I want to do for myself, right? So which topic is going to give you the most leverage 5 or 10 years down the road? That's the way I think about it, right? And so, talking about mobile advertising, do you want to stay in mobile advertising for the 5 to 10 years? If you do, then it's like get into the trends, talk about that stuff. But if you want to be known as a tech sales leader, right, and leadership and all that, then what you start to do is talk about how you're different, your uniqueness within the tech sales space, and how you do things compared to others, because you want to stand out, right? You don't want to be vanilla. So that's the way I would think about it, is what's going to give you the most leverage in 5 to 10 years. Okay. And double down on that, because you can make money with any niche, y'all. I promise you. Like I know a guy making money on talking about starting cleaning businesses, and like, who would have thought? So like any niche, you can do it as long as you stick with it long enough. That's where most people drop the ball, is they just don't stick with it long enough. They'll give up after a week.
And I would
Okay.
say I'd agree with that. Speaking personally, for 15 years, my expertise and what people know me by is social media. It's where my career started. Books, everything for me has been around there. And then I've transitioned. I still speak on social, but I've transitioned into being focused on influencer marketing. And it's stuff I did through my career, but now really B2B influencer marketing has stepped into the light. I talk about a little bit to do with private communities because I do have a lot of experience there, thanks to work and some stuff I do personally. But the vast majority of my content is around influencer marketing because I've already done the social thing for so long that, now I've transitioned a bit using my existing audience because they also have come along kind of with B2B influencer. It's not this huge separation. It's not like this. I went sideways into sales, which I'm not in sales. I can never talk about sales.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
just staying on Nicholas, I see the question from Kyle. I see another question from Logan, but since Nicholas also asked this, I have my thoughts, but we'll see what you
yeah,
think. Chat
yeah.
GPT.
Hell yeah. I think yes, y'all. No. Here's the asterisk on the or the disclaimer. Yes, use it, but not just to like be lazy with it and be like, oh, write me a LinkedIn post about this and then just copy paste. The thing with GPT is the best thing, and this is someone who started an AI company, Taplio. We have an AI writing tool, so I've been around this for a while now. But um, the thing about it that you want to understand is it's like a calculator, right? Chat GPT is like what the calculator did for math, right? You could have done math by hand before, and now you could still do math. You could just do it faster, but you still need to understand the foundations and the fundamentals. So, yes, you should use Chat GPT, but what that means is you still need to know how to organize ideas, know what good hooks look like, right? Because you're talking to a computer, sure, they'll have some options for you. They'll give you generic hooks, but is it really for your audience, right? So you can look at it if you want to change the tone of your writing, right? To make it more serious or humorous or stuff like that, which is great. But what Chat GPT will never take away is the thinking behind writing online. And clear thinking is clear writing, and vice versa. Clear writing is clear thinking. So you understand your audience in a way in what they might respond to. And so you can think about it in a way that maybe ChatGPT doesn't have context on, right? So you still want to know how to think about writing and the fundamentals and all the pieces. If you just start with Chat GPT and like don't learn a lot of the fundamentals of copywriting and and start just by doing it on your own, it's going to hurt you in the long run. It might get you some nice likes initially and all that, right? But then all of your stuff is just going to sound plain Jane and like the rest of it, right? And so you have to understand that like it's good as like a calculator if you know where you need to go, right? But if you don't yet, then it becomes a problem and you start to rely on a drug that sure it makes you feel good now, but long term it's gonna kill you, right? So that's the way I think about it, right? But I'm a huge proponent of it. I think it's badass. But where I don't think it's badass for people that are just getting started and don't really know which way to point the compass, and they just like, oh, give me something. It doesn't matter which way the compass is going,
Yeah.
right? And you can get really, really distracted.
Yeah. And the way
Yeah.
that I use it for a variety of things is to help form the core idea or to massage
Mm-hmm.
the core idea that I have stuck in my head. And then I put it into my own words or I wrap stuff that's, my personal voice around it. The other thing that I would say about ChatGPT is it's only as good as the prompts that you give it. So, do you want it at a 12th grade readability level? Do you want, to your point, do you want it to be serious or funny or whatever you want that voice to sound like that gets sort of like you, and then you can put your own voice around it, or
Mm-hmm.
headlines or whatever the thousand things you can ask it to do. If you want to have fun with it, if you want to get off personal branding for 1 second, ask it to write you songs about certain things. I've lost hours with it coming up with songs about demand base, about our mascot, about all sorts of things. I asked it to write a
uh,
mascot about our content team, and I put, write a song about the demand based content team. It knew all about demand base and it made it hilarious. But Kyle's question says, is say you have an established expertise and within an overly narrow follower group, should you optimize the content you create for your following within that established expertise, or for the following you want within a broader audience? So should you, I think, stay niche down because it's such a tight subject
mhm.
matter, or if you want to grow your community, uh, go to that broader topic? And Kyle, correct me if I said that wrong.
Yeah, I would, Kyle, for you, I mean, life's too short to, write about stuff that you don't want to write about. So if you want to go in a certain direction, go in that certain direction, right? And just start now, because if not, you're just procrastinating, right? Like, if you're sure you can write about stuff right now for your current narrow follower group, right? But if you don't see yourself working with that group long term, then why do it? Probably why we want to do it is for likes and comments, right? Because it makes us feel good. It's cheap dopamine, right? And so, yeah, sure. But likes and comments aren't actually money in your bank account, right? And so that's what I would say is like, it's going to suck. Maybe you'll get less likes, but trust me, it is better to do it now versus in the future. I know someone that was like going super wide, top 10 websites that feel legal to know, and then they were like, hey, but this isn't really giving me any revenue or anything. So then they're like, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to pull the cord. I'm going to start talking about Salesforce. And they started talking about Salesforce, and now they started getting like no likes, and they had like 50,000 followers, but they said screw it. And over time, now they're getting a ton of likes, and they found that tribe again. So you'll see people will change direction all the time. But what you don't want to do is play in the middle, right? If you play in the middle with two different of topics, then people are like, don't know what to expect from you. And if people don't know what to expect from you, when you pop up on their feed, they're confused. And a confused reader means they keep scrolling, right? So, like, that's the psychology behind this. So I would say go for the more broad area that you want to get involved with, right, Kyle? That's what I would say do. So if it's fitness, talk about fitness, but again, find how you can get niche in fitness, right? Always try and niche down per se, but go in the direction that you see yourself wanting to go in the next 5 to 10 years. That's definitely what I would do.
Before I get to Logan's question, what, and I guess this goes to picking, your topic and niching down in there and creating
Mhm.
content and everything. What are your thoughts on hashtags within LinkedIn? Some people love them. People that give advice on it or actively use it, they use a couple
Yeah,
hashtags
yeah,
throughout it. Some people think it serves no purpose. So,
yeah,
where do you kind
yeah.
of stand on that spectrum?
Excuse me. Overall, I think hashtags are dumb. That's my honest opinion. So here's why. Because no, who likes reading a post with hashtags all over it, right? Like it just ruins the reading experience. That's for one. I'll tell you a use case I do use a hashtag for is for in brand 30. Our whole community uses the hashtag brand 30. Why is that? They use that so that we can all go and search each other's posts and like and comment and support each other, right? That's why we use hashtag brand 30, because it makes stuff easy to find within our own community. So that's great. So if you have a use case like that, amazing. But if you're trying to use it to like boost your reach and like, get more likes, get more contents, maybe it helps a little. But honestly, other than hashtag brand 30, best hashtag on LinkedIn, by the way, like I don't think I ever use hashtags. And guess what? Like, am I like screwed because of it? No. So I think, a couple things on hashtags. If there's a good intent for it, like you have a community or you're like building a brand around a certain term. Like I have a buddy, it's like death to fluff is his thing. And that's kind of like his now that's like his ideology, right? And like he uses it because it's like a statement, you know? So there's an intent there. And the intent is not to get more reach or followers or anything like that. But if you do want to try it and use it, and again, what I say, y'all always take with a grain of salt. If you do want to do it, just put them at the end after your post, because no one likes reading hashtags in the middle of a post. It makes it look really dumb. So, and people just want to scroll because like no one likes reading hashtags, right? Just throws your eyes off. And so now we're getting into formatting stuff, which is what we talked about brand 30. But you want to make it look native, you want to make it look good, you want to make it look easy to read, and that make it look like it's not going to consume a lot of energy for me to read it. And when you throw hashtags in there, that's what it does. So yeah, that's my take on it. Sorry if I'm being too honest.
No, and I think
Yeah.
when it comes to hashtags, I mean, yeah, I agree. And some people, over my career working within companies will send me stuff to look at, or, it'd be like, I don't know. I'm in hashtag communications, hashtag leadership within, hashtag this company. And I'm like,
Ugh,
I don't know what that says. I cannot read that. But I
yeah.
also think if you put a hashtag or two, like you said, at the bottom of your post or whatever, it also behooves you to become part, like you said you do with brand 30. It
Yeah.
behooves you to become part of that community of whatever that hashtag is, right? So if I hashtag something B2B influencer marketing, I do I do no good unless maybe I search that hashtag and I engage with a couple people that are using that hashtag.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It does you no good, like you said, beyond trying to get yourself some likes. You can be part of a broader conversation, a broader community that is actively using something that's key to your personal brand.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like a statement like, hey, this is about sales. This isn't about marketing. Or like you can use it as that, right? And if that's the intent, great. Make up your own hashtag. Like I have a buddy who he's Italian, and so he drops nuggets of information. So he calls them Natoli's Nuggets. Anthony Natoli, great. He started in brand 30 at 0 followers. Now he has 25,000 in less than 12 months, right? So like he's he's someone that's started with brand 30 and now he has a 6-figure revenue business as a side hustle, right? And we helped them basically get through that in brand 30. So yeah, I mean, you think about that, like that's another way to use it. And now like, his whole everything he does is Natoli's Nuggets. People aren't going to go searching for Natoli's Nuggets. Maybe a few here and there, but most when people see it, they're like, oh, okay, that's funny. Natoli's Nuggets. So yeah, I would say that's the way to use them. Don't use them all over the place just to get likes. Don't tag 100 people in the comments that have a big following just to get a like. Like, all that stuff rarely works, y'all. I'll tell you the only thing that really, like, there's no hacks to this. The only hack, if there was one, is working on creating better, valuable content. And I know it's kind of like cliche, but it's literally like doing that over time. Right? It's the boring stuff, and that's why most people give up, because it's boring, and to do it for 2 years straight is really freaking boring. But those are the people that have the discipline to get through it and make it. And it's really the simple stuff.
So Logan asks, and thank you, Logan, for being so active within the chat. It's great. Asks, do you have any tools to capture the things online you want to look back at for ideas?
The iPhone screenshot feature. Just screenshot it. That's it. Again, keep it simple, y'all. Keep it simple. And I always say this because people trying to overcomplicate it with like, I need a tool for this. I need a tool for that. I need a tool for that. Literally just write, use whatever editor you use, Notion, whatever, right there. And for ideas, those 2 extensions I told you about, this is all I use personally. Twimex, Taplio, Notion, and screenshot ideas that are cool. That's it, right? Like I don't use any crazy tools besides that. That's all you need. And all the other stuff is just, procrastination. Basically, that's what it is. It's a way to procrastinate. So just start writing, screenshot your ideas. You can use Taplio. There's a bunch of inspiration in there as well. Or other, AI inspiration tools that are out there. Go check those out too. Right. But they're out there. Yeah.
So while we wait for any more questions that anyone might have. What, and you kind of brought this up, answered this a little bit, but how do you find your unique voice that will help attract an audience? You talked about picking one topic and niching down,
Yeah.
figuring that
Yeah.
out. Obviously, trying to find your kind of figure out how you want to talk essentially online.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, how do you find that voice? How do you figure out that you like emojis or you don't, or like,
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, what I said earlier, which is finding the 3 writers you really like online. Doesn't matter how big they are, how small they are, but if they're probably pretty good if they have a bigger following, right? Finding those writers and literally trying to write like them. That's it. That's how you find it. It's called like, um, like I said, I take a month where I would just hand write stuff that was written online by like some of my favorite writers, right? And so like one of my favorite writers is Morgan Housel, who wrote The Psychology of Money. If you haven't read that book, it's amazing, short and sweet chapters, like packs a punch in a short book that takes 2 hours to read, and it's one of the best books ever. Literally, I would write chapters down by hand of what he wrote because he's one of the best business writers of all time, right? In my opinion. And I want to write like him. He knows how to use humor, throw some stuff in. So that is what I would say, dude. That's the best way to find your voice, right? And it doesn't happen overnight. It's like I still personally haven't really like found my voice in writing. I kind of have my personality like in real life, a little whimsical, a little kind of like intense, like very truthful, you know. But like in writing, I try and portray that as well. But it's still it's a work in progress all the time. Like you never perfect it, right? And but that's where I would start if I had to start anywhere. Yeah.
now, with the few minutes, 5 minutes or so that we do have left, do you want to maybe explain a little more about Brand 30? I know you have the cohort. The next one, it's in February, I think, launching. I know you talked about that first week, but kind of some of the more nitty gritty about it. Um,
Yeah.
and then
I
Nicholas, if you want to pick up on it while you're talking about it, he just wants to know: do you sit down and plan your content in advance, or is it spontaneous? So I don't know if you want to work that into your Brand 30. Uh,
Yeah, and I don't want this to be a sales pitch, y'all. So like, here's why I wouldn't join Brand 30. Like, instead of pitching you why you should join, here's why you shouldn't join. If you don't want to take this seriously and like don't want to spend like 6 months to a year like actually sitting down and creating content, then don't. I wouldn't do it because it's it's a kickstart to that where we teach the foundations in order to basically set you up for success. As I mentioned, Anthony Natoli, 25,000 followers, 6-figure revenue business. Amanda Stern, she's another one, 6-figure business, journaling business, right? She doesn't have a ton of followers, but she used Brand 30's inspiration to start that, and start writing online and get the idea for the journaling business, right? So we have tons of those stories. But again, those people took at least 6 months to do it. So that's why I wouldn't join. Another reason I wouldn't join is if you are wanting a magic bullet, because there's no magic bullet, right? Like we teach you the foundations that you can use to do the boring stuff over time and actually get results, right? So there's no magic bullet. And I say that, that's why I say we kickstart your personal brand online, because I'm not going to say you're going to get 10,000 followers in 30 days. Like, that's very difficult to do. So when you're starting at 0 or under 10,000, right? Because you haven't started to compound yet. So that's what I would say. I also wouldn't join if you don't believe in the compound effect, right? If you don't think, if you don't think things compound over time, don't join. But that's definitely kind of what we've seen happen, right? Is people are like, well, how'd you start to grow so quickly? Well, I grew slowly at first, and then it took me a while to start really, really going, because you start to figure out what works, and that
yeah.
compounds, and your knowledge compounds, and your connections compound of who likes your stuff and all that. So that's why I wouldn't join. But lastly, to answer your question, do you sit down and plan your content in advance, or is it spontaneous? Nicholas, when I didn't have a ton of content, yes, I would sit down every day for 30 minutes to an hour and write stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Now I've got a lot of things going on, so I'm not in that mode right now because I have a huge library. So I will only write like one new piece, like longer piece, like a carousel piece. I'll probably write one or two new ones a week, and that's it. Right. And it takes me 30 minutes to an hour. Because I just have a Rolodex of content now to pick from so that I can repurpose, reuse. Right. So if you're getting started, sit down, create your own system. We talk about this in Brand 30, how to create your own system, right? Which is like, do you sit down in the mornings? Like, whatever is going to get you to sit in that chair every day for 30 minutes and just write, that's what you do, right? And so, and then at the end of that 30 minutes, you're going to hit publish, regardless if you think it's perfect or not, because that's literally the mindset you have to get into. So yeah, that's short answer, Nicholas, is it's changed. But if I were early, what I would do is I would sit down, and because it teaches you discipline in the creation of content too, which is actually one of the most disciplined things you'll have to do. To be quite honest with you, it's very difficult at first. Yeah.
And Logan said he's 21, so he plans on doing this for a hot minute. So,
Oh, boom. Okay. Yeah, that's super young, Logan. Yeah. I mean, I am 30. So yeah, if you do this for 9 years, I will guarantee you, if you do it every day for 9 years, you will freaking have a massive audience. I will bet $1 million on it. Right? Like anyone that can do it over that time. No one has 100 crappy versions of anything. So once you have 100 versions or 100 pieces that you've written, you'll probably have figured it out, right? And or gotten closer to it. So just know that. But most people can't get past a week, right? Is the hard part. So that's the hardest thing, once again, is mindset. Because most people, they do have stuff to say. They're learning stuff every day. So they can talk about that.
and I
So
just
yeah, hopefully that was helpful.
for me
Yeah.
too. I mean, like you said, screenshots, whatever. I literally just use Apple Notes, and if something's annoying me at the gym or something, or I see something and or something pops in my head, I write down a few words that will trigger me for when I sit down at my laptop later in the day, or if I'm on my couch on my phone or something like that. And generally speaking, it does pretty well. Something really annoyed me the other day. I wrote that in my notes that I wanted to rant about it. And I put a few words. I sat down, and if you look back, I put rant. I typed out what I didn't like. I put the
Yeah.
kind of code for end rant, and
Mm-hmm.
it was it was successful. But it took me probably 2 minutes to think of it, just because it was on my mind and I was at the gym or wherever the hell I was at the time. Um,
Yeah.
and Logan, I just turned 40 last month, so we have the wide range from 21 to 30 to
Yeah.
40. So
Yeah.
you have some
Yeah. Look.
years.
Yeah, and like look at like some of the greats, like Justin Welsh, a good buddy of mine. He's got like what 400,000 on LinkedIn, and he started when he was 37, 36 or something, like 38, right? And so like age doesn't matter. Like who cares, right? If anything, the more age you have, probably the more experience you have, and the more ideas that you have to talk about. Because you have a lot more experience, right? Especially nowadays when storytelling is becoming more important versus because of Chat GPT, all these like platitudes that people can just come up with on the fly and post. It costs $0 to be kind. If I see that again, I'm blocking that person. I'm just kidding. No, but yes, but like stuff like that you see all the time, right? Like, so people are going to want to hear more stories around that, personal stories, things you've done, experiences. And so that's what I'm focusing on now, is like actual storytelling versus like, hey, here's how to do better at this, right? But giving a lesson while giving a story at the same time, which is also very hard to do. But that's what I'm focusing on right now when I write stuff, right? So yeah, that's again, age doesn't matter, y'all. The older you are, actually, the more stories you got to tell, is the way I frame it.
And you have one of my good friends. I did your last cohort or the one before it, Leslie Barrett.
Oh yeah, Leslie's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
And she's
Leslie's
gone
great.
on to
Yeah.
create launch a course and a guide and
See?
a couple other successful things, and grew her launch her newsletter and has grown that to a bunch of
Yep.
people.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
talk with her a lot behind the scenes, and she's in customer marketing, obviously in advocacy. She had a lot of ideas there, but we were talking, I knew she was going through it, and she's like, I want to give out a template and I want to do this. Okay. Like, it's like, I'm afraid I might not be able to do it because my employer said, so repurpose it into your own voice and make it your own
Yeah.
framework. And
Yeah.
and she
Yeah.
made this course, like I said, newsletter and all this, and
Hmm.
she's doing quite well with it. So,
Yeah.
and then
That's
her
the way. I
company
mean,
was super supportive. Her CEO loves it and has backed her in what she's doing. So, um,
yeah. Yeah.
but now that
Yeah.
we're actually at the top of the hour, and I want to be respectful of your time, how can people find you if they are interested? Kind of all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. All that stuff. Find me on LinkedIn, yeah, y'all. Andrew Mewborn. If you want to join the next Brand 30 cohort, I have a 50% off coupon code for the RevGenius / demand based community. So I just put the link there. Use code 50 Feb50 off at checkout. You'll get 50% off at checkout. So of the $500 to join. So that's for certain communities. I've created that offer. But yeah, if you want to join, let me know. If you have questions before, hit me up on LinkedIn or email Andrew at brand30.io. And so, yeah, that's it, y'all. But again, hopefully this is helpful. If you just have generic questions, feel free to hit me up too. Just want to make sure we get more creators on LinkedIn creating, because it creates luck for a lot of people, increases your chances of luck. So, and I like seeing that. So, yeah, that's it there, Justin. And thank you all for joining. Really appreciate it. We'll see y'all on LinkedIn, and hopefully we'll get y'all growing soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew,
Awesome.
and thank you everyone that joined. Have a great day.
Later, everyone.